TV show with Aditya for reaching 550 episodes. It's a model of consistency since 26 June 2018. I toast to it to reach more dizzying heights.
And with this, we start episode number 550 on the 29th of July 2022. Once again, another milestone achieved in the historic reign of this historic talk show. We'll talk about that as this talk show progresses, but let's get back to basics and go through each discussion with minute details. The India West Indies ODI Game 3, a format whose relevance is being questioned by a few pseudo experts and the insensitive PPED media as to why do we need this format, and everyone is saying either make it into a 40-over format. Another one goes to extreme lengths and says scrap the format. I would say scrap the individual who talks about scrapping the format. Well, if the three matches of this India West Indies ODI series were to be taken, even if it's not relevant because the 20-over World Cup is around the corner, just 70 days away, if that was the discussion, and we have to look at this game with individuals who are not regulars, who are filling in for the regulars, and whose place in the side will only be decided if one or two of the regulars is shunted out of the team. And we know which regular are we talking about, because this regular has made runs in an irregular manner over the past few years, and this person's place is being questioned. But I'm sure if it was another player whose name shall not be taken, whose name brings tears to everyone's eyes, his place could have never been questioned, even if that player had made 7 zeros in a row and not done anything substantial. That player never did anything substantial, but because now the PPED media has skin in the game, thanks to pseudo media where everyone can just put their moronic opinions without using their brains. Well, if you're using pseudo media for such things, it means you have so much time to spare, which means you are practically useless. If you spend time on pseudo media, you are practically, literally, metaphorically a useless person. You don't have any creative element in you if you're using pseudo media other than just promoting events. If you're doing conversations, if you're arguing on petty issues with people, you have a huge gap. That means your vessels are empty, and empty vessels make the most noise. But back to this game specifically, a rain affected game. Well, if you are in England, Australia, and for some matter the West Indies, Caribbean, or whatever islands you are on, Trinidad, Tobago, or whichever island you are on, rain is always going to play a role. And if the match starts at 10 a.m. local time, rain will always play a role. Well, the match started at 10 a.m. local time to accommodate the Indians watching. At least with the match starting there at 9:30, 10 a.m. local time, it meant that if somebody wanted to watch the match here, they would be able to do so at least one half of the innings by starting the match at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So you would be able to watch the match at least for one half till 11 p.m. or if you follow the rule till 10:30 p.m. Nobody was going to wait till 3 a.m. to watch the match. You can always watch the highlights the next day or rely on websites whose employees sit till 3 a.m. to call the match. Well, that's not important. But by the time this game came, there were two close games before this in which one felt West Indies had the upper hand for 80% of the match, and they lost in the last over. And by the time this match came, did they run out of energy Maybe they did. Because the way the match happened, the Indian team still had something left in the tank. But now there's a change of format. And what does that mean? That means the West Indies team will be rejuvenated again, because the 20 over tournament or the 20 over format is more suitable to them. It's in their wheelhouse. They don't have to use their brain. All they have to do is swing for the fences, fours and sixes galore. They don't have to think much. And then there's a change of personnel for the other side. So you have Pant and Rohit Sharma and a few others who are not part of the 50 over team being included in the 20 over team. And as always, a certain individual's plays being questioned by the insensitive PPED media. Of course, the anti-brigade of that person gets loud. But when it comes to the 20 over game, everybody looks forward to it. Why? Because the 20 over World Cup is not far away. Until the 20 over World Cup comes close, each team is going to play at least another 10-12 games. And of course, a few former pseudo experts are questioning why hasn't the final 15-20 been decided. It's not easy, because whoever is left out will feel vindicated that they were left out not because they didn't have the merit or the talent, but because the selectors were under pressure to select certain individuals. And despite the pressure, certain individuals whose style of play is seen as ancient compared to the whole bang bang style of play that everyone endorses, which I'm wondering what's so special about it. Because if it's a 20 over game, you don't have to think much. You have to hit almost every second ball for a six. So there is no special style, and questioning that a certain individual bats at this strike rate while the others bat at this strike rate and we are mesmerized by other individuals, that's the immaturity which the PPED media shows. Right now, they're looking at Deepak Hooda as the new face, as the new aggressive talent, as a new guy who will show his aggressive talent, compared to another individual whose style of play is slightly not as aggressive but equally good. But we don't want that. We want somebody to hit 40 of 10 balls. We don't want someone to hit 60 or 50 balls, because that will mean 70 balls remain for the other players to score maybe another 100-120 runs. So you rather want somebody to score 30 of 10 balls, which means you have still another 110 balls for the rest of the players to come and score. And that's what the particular player against whom the anti-campaign is going on does not do. He's never done it before. His style was always praised before, but I think this sudden love for bang 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 when it's something new, and this temporary love for it is not going to go a long way. I'm just surprised at the fact they're suddenly endorsing it. Where was this endorsement 10 years ago? 20 over as a format has been there for the past 20 years, and I don't think it has changed. 20 over means you don't have time to think. You don't have to think. You never have to think. You don't have to use your intellect. If you hit a six, good. If you hit a six, you get out. Well, the fielder was ready to take the catch. So it's a matter of hit and miss. You miss, you miss. You hit, you hit. The bowlers will obviously come up with a plan not to allow the player to hit, but that's not what is expected. It's expected that one team hits the other bowlers for sixes and fours, and when they defend the score, they don't allow that team's batters to hit sixes and fours. So it's a matter of being a hypocrite. But it's going to be a very interesting situation as to how the 20 over tournament goes. I'll say expect it to be close. The West Indies, as I said, are more suited in this format. They're more comfortable in this particular skin. They don't have to use their brain. and all their players have played in various T20 tournaments, so they are prepared for it. They have nothing to lose, and if you listen to pseudo experts, everyone expects them to have a close game because West Indies are two-time 20-over world champions. 50 overs they did well, so they were not expected to do well, and they were eventually railroaded in the last over, but this is not happening in the 20-over game. A team is hardly bowled out because there's hardly any time. You have 90 minutes each side. So either you score 250 in 20 overs and you win the game, or you score 200 and the other team wins the game in 17-18 overs. As I said, there's no time. If one team wins one game, the other team can equalize the second game, and you can see that the third, fourth, fifth game becomes even more interesting. As to who will get a chance, who will be the openers, they have a couple of openers they can try. I won't be surprised as to if they try certain individuals. It won't be surprising at all. Who will be the final 20 individuals to go? Well, let's leave it to the vanilla selectors and the pressure they will be under to select someone or to deselect someone, or will they be under with the anti-campaign of a certain player? Will they go with a bold step? It's not a big deal, but it's a bold step not to include that player. So it's going to be very interesting as to how the final 18-19 players are decided, and whoever misses out, I sympathize with them, and I will be very annoyed with the selectors if a certain player misses out who deserves to go. Who will miss out? I don't know right now. Who will miss out at the expense of someone else? It's difficult to say. And the question marks around one player's style of batting, well, it never goes away. But while these particular tournaments are the final selection moments for the 20-over World Cup, another tournament has already started. It's the Commonwealth Game Women's 20-over tournament. So, a cricket tournament has been included in the Commonwealth Games Championship, where you see players from erstwhile colonies come together to play, which means it becomes easier for countries who don't even have a 5% chance at the Olympic level, where you have world players coming in. This is a very small and limited contingent of countries, and they have a shared history. They've gone through certain moments, and yet they agreed to play this tournament. If we could remove the term Commonwealth Games and have some nomenclature, as I've been saying, it won't make a difference. But that's not for me to decide, that's for the organizers. Let's focus on the 20-over tournament. As I said, women's division is more organized than the men's division, because I've never heard one women player say the schedule is hurtful. If you look at this schedule, you at least have gap of at least 1 day between each game. So India faces Australia today in a couple of hours time at 4:30 p.m. That's going to be a very interesting situation as to how this whole thing goes. And this tournament, it's a very interesting situation, because even before the tournament has started, everyone has had a unanimous consensus that Australia wins everything. They win the gold in the women's tournament, they win the gold in the men's hockey tournament, they win the gold in the women's hockey tournament, they win all the track and field events. They are supposedly the strongest team as far as the team events are concerned. So wherever there's a team event happening, more than one player involved, Australia has the advantage. It wouldn't be so if this was Olympics or Asiad, but that's a different set of countries. Australia is expected to win the gold. Australia is expected to beat India later this evening without even breaking a sweat. And India is expected to give a good fight to the Australian team, but as it happened in the 50-over World Cup, when Australia railroaded through all the teams, won all the 8-9 games because they had players for each situation. They have strong 11 players and they have a strong domestic 20 over tournament, and that's why they have been able to do well. India's 20 over domestic tournament, as far as the women's division is concerned, is still something the Indian Cricket Board is thinking about, because they think that even if we have a full-fledged tournament, do we have the ROI? Will the broadcasters agree? They are happy doing this mini tournaments which are of no significance. So the question is, who wins the game tonight? I expect it to be a 50-50 call, but if you ask anybody who has any knowledge of this sport, they will say Australia without even thinking. India versus Australia, even if the Indian team is strong, Australia. 20 years ago, Australia. 20 years from now, Australia. Even if India beats Australia in small tournaments, it doesn't matter, because Australia overall has created such an aura in the men's game and the women's game that you say Australia is winning. Nowhere any other team is coming close. The only team who can give them a run for their money may be the hosts, England, but there's a long way to go for that. When it comes to the game on 31st, expect it to be a close game, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. And the quest for gold is mouth-watering. The obsession with gold is mouth-watering. We expect our athletes to win a gold in this particular tournament, whether it's weightlifting, track and field events, boxing, wrestling, table tennis, hockey, women's and men's division, whatever be the sport, there we are expected to at least win the gold, at least get to the finals of that particular tournament and not break a sweat. Because the competition is such that not all teams are strong, maybe Australia, England, up to some extent, and a few other erstwhile former you know what. So it's expected that, as always, as it has happened before, India should get the maximum gold. This is to make up for whatever did not happen at the Olympics. And will the absence of a certain Neeraj Chopra, the baby face, make a difference? When everyone is saying his absence makes a huge dent in the gold medal prospects. There are two things to it: that he's a good player and his presence has an aura, but his absence means the other players can't do the job. That's an insult to the other players who also worked equally hard to qualify for this tournament. So just because a certain Neeraj Chopra is missing from the tournament due to injuries and all the hype that was created around him after he won the gold last year at the Olympics and made everyone emotional and hyper emotional and becoming the baby face and suddenly becoming the focus on billboards and every other promotional event. Well, if he's decided to skip, he has decided to skip. But will his absence make a difference? No. His absence will not make a difference. Let's not insult other players that just because a certain Neeraj Chopra is not part of this tournament, it doesn't mean that other players don't have the potential to do the job. I do not agree with that. While the quest for gold continues, the quest for gold is mouth-watering. What we have today is something special. What has been achieved today is something special. And once it has been achieved, it cannot be achieved again. We just move forward. Well, as I said, weekends come, weekends go. Commonwealth game keeps on happening. Other happenings in other realms also keeps on happening. There's nothing special. But finally, the 550th episode has been achieved. After a bit of a roadblock, the 550th episode has been achieved. Something which is a bigger moment than getting a gold at a sporting event, because a gold medal is on the cards. It's a deserving gold medal moment, because after this we'll celebrate the next milestone. We won't come back to this. So let's celebrate the 550th episode on the 29th of July 2022, and a gold medal is a deserving moment. Whether in the Commonwealth Games India gets the maximum gold is on the athletes. If they do, everyone will bow down to them. If they miss by even a margin, everyone will say not enough, preparation is not enough. But the preparation that has gone into the 550 episodes of this particular talk show cannot be explained in mere words, cannot be understood by mere mortals, and no one can understand or will even come close to achieving such a milestone. It is the biggest milestone achieved, and more milestones are to follow. So yes, a gold medal is a deserving moment. No talk show will ever come close, and no one will understand the immortality of this achievement, because most individuals are mere vanilla mortals. So this ends episode number 550 on the 29th of July 2022. But the adventure doesn't end here. We move on, we move forward, we move to episode number 551, which will be telecast on the 1st of August 2022. So stay tuned for episode number 551.